Did you identify with being a role model when you first heard that about yourself?
Mm-mm, no. Um, it did make me remember, when I was in elementary school, I remembered some of the teachers' comments that I was a role model student or a role model for the class, but that was the only thing. I didn't relate to it anything other than a memory.
And since you had your first reading and there weren't necessarily all of the things that we now think of, the four views, as what you explored, so how long after your first reading did you even hear that you were a role model hermit?
It was when Rob brought Profile,
Hmm.
and it was a very interesting way that I learned Profile. He was asked, is it okay to tell a story?
Absolutely.
Okay. I just don't know time-wise or anything. Okay, so he was asked by a publisher in New York to write a book. And so what he thought he would do was to write a book on profiles.
Hmm.
So he was living in Sedona and I was living in Sedona, and he asked me if he recorded something each night, would I transcribe it the next day? So that's what I did. I went one day, picked up the 1-3, brought it back home, transcribed it, gave him, the papers, and picked up the next one and went back and forth, back and forth. And I was doing 1-3, 1-4. I did 2 a day because he did it like that. So I figured, I'm going to be done, Great. I got to the 6-2 and I could barely type when I was listening to him talking about the 6-2 and about the 3 different stages. And that first stage of my life was just devastating. The first 28 years, it was psychologically devastating. I mean, I really wished I would die. That's how I felt in those first 28 years, especially as it got closer to the end of that period. And then he talked about the role model. He talked about the role model, but those weren't the things that hit me. It was more the first 28 years, and that I was going to have to come off the roof and meet similar energies at 50. And I just started crying. I couldn't stop crying. I says, I'm not coming off the roof. I'm not coming. Because no way in hell did I want to go back to those first 28 years or meeting similar energy. And I did get through typing, but it took about 5 times longer than the other profiles because I just kept crying when I was typing. And I went the next day to bring it to him, and I just said, I'm not coming off the roof. I don't care what you say. I am not going to go through those first 28 years, again. And he said, but you're going to come off as yourself. You're already living you. It won't be the same at all. You weren't equipped those first 28 years with how you're equipped now. So I relaxed then. And more than the role model, for me, one of the things that I loved with my own experiment is that I really stopped caring what other people thought of me, which was so new. Open solar plex, open ego, open ajna, obviously open head if the ajna is open, but I always cared what the other thought about me, and that disappeared over the experiment. So role model was like, but what intrigued me was that at 50 is when the 6-2 flowers, because I was around 45 or so when I had my reading. So I was like, wow, flowering at 50. Whoever says that in this life? So, yeah, so that's my little story there.